for this little project, you're going to end up drawing this ice cream cone. It's going to use a combination of the pen tool and the pencil tool and something that we haven't talked about yet, but something that's going to allow you to kind of change the profile, which is right here, of kind of how the brush works, and that's with the width tool. Sounds fancy, it's not. And overall, this looks kind of complicated, and in some cases it can be, but really we're going to break it down pretty easily. And I'm not going to do the whole thing in this video, but I'll just give you the idea of kind of the technique that you're going to use. So I've already given you all of the swatches that you're going to need here. Okay, I got that already built in for you. And there's two layers in the file. One is ice cream, it's locked, that's the original, and then the other is the layer you're going to draw on. All right. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the top of the ice cream, right? Because that's kind of the easiest to start with. So what I'm going to do in order to get this curve is I'm just going to use the pen tool to start. All right. And I'm going to make sure that my profile is all set and go. All right. Probably should be on the right layer. So I'm going to click right about from here, and I'm going to go about halfway. I have to pretend that the cherry's not there, okay? Remember in the beginning, we talked a lot about exploratory about Illustrator kind of being like cut paper. So pretend that the cherry's not there. Now I'm going to bring this down to here, and you notice it's not perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to work with these handles here. I'm going to click here, all right? Then I'm going to hit escape to release my pen. I have this anchor, this handle, and what you can do is if you hold down the Option key, you can take that handle and you can bend it and adjust it, and it kind of is helpful. This isn't pure in terms of the curve, but I'm not worried about it right now because it's going to be behind the cherry when it's all said and done, so it's not a big deal. I am going to go ahead for now, and I'm going to change my stroke color so that we can see it. I'm just going to click on it and make it the red color that I've got already here. All right. Now, in order to do this, all right, you could do it with the pen tool. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily unless you're really, really good with the pen tool, and I just don't like to do curves like this with the pen tool. I'm going to use my pencil. The reason I'm going to use the pencil over the brush is we want to always use the pencil as opposed to the brush because the pencil allows us to style things certainly differently, whereas the brush is more an artistic piece, and you can do different types of styling, but it's not as helpful when it comes to something like this. So I'm going to take my pencil tool and I'm going to attach it to this line here. And I'm just going to go, oops, sorry, before I do that, I'm going to double click on my pencil tool and make sure I'm on smooth. Okay. I'm going to go right to the end, and I'm going to do my best to trace this. Now, what's nice is that if I mess it up, I can go back and adjust, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to go around here, and I'm kind of going, you can see I'm wobbling a little bit, but it's going to smooth it out for me. And I'm going nice and easy all the way through. I'm going to get right down into here, and I finish. Okay, and you can see where some are good and some are bad. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grab first my direct selection tool, and I can click on a point, and I can move the point, and I can also bend those handles again. Okay, and you can see here I can do the same thing. I can click and I can pull this up, and I can click on this one and pull it up. You want to apply those particular handles. You can see here if I zoom in on it a little bit, you can see the handle. Okay, and this allows you to really adjust the line. Super helpful when dealing with something that you've drawn in Illustrator. I also have underneath the pen tool the anchor point tool, which will shift in between anchor points, and it can be better with bigger slices and bigger chunks. You can see kind of how that functions, sort of gooey almost. So I'm going to take the direct selection tool again, and I'm going to click on this. I'm going to pull this line up, and I'm going to click on this one, and in this instance, I'm going to adjust this anchor a little bit, and then I'm going to pull this down, and then once again, click on it, and I'm going to adjust that anchor. If I pull the anchor out, you can see where the line goes. I can really kind of manipulate how it works, which is kind of nice. Again, I'm going to shift this one over. I'm going to pull this anchor up a little bit. I'm actually going to take this one right up here. And you can see where I'm getting a little better. I don't expect it to be exact, but real close is what I'm looking for here. So you can see where I can go through and I can kind of shift these. Now, it didn't connect, which I just noticed. So what I'm going to do is snip off a piece of this with the scissors, and I'm quickly going to grab my pencil tool, and I'm going to get this line started, and I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that I connect these two lines because that really wouldn't work for me if they were separated. All right, and again, grab my direct selection tool, and I can sort of bend. I don't know why that's not connecting. All right, bend those points together until they kind of round out a little bit better. All right. Again, not exact, and that's, you guys will work a little bit longer to get it. I just want to kind of see where you guys can bend this a little bit, okay? So pretty close. I'm not loving this. It's going to annoy me. So I'm going to, again, tap and go. You can see where I can get that pretty good. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I feel like the stroke on this thing looks like it's going to want to be probably around 7 for all the pieces. So anytime we have a stroke, we want to make sure it's 7. I'm going to pull this over here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my properties, and I'm going to make the stroke black, and I'm going to make the fill the brown color. Okay, so there's my first start to this. And I'm not going to do the details. I'll do those afterwards. I'm going to worry about the cherry afterwards as well. When it comes to making this piece, all right, same thing. I can use the pen tool and kind of wrap here and wrap here. All right, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get even lazier. Is I'm just going to use an ellipse, okay? And let me take the fill out so we can see it. And all I want to do, again, I'm going to make this stroke red for now just so you guys can see it, all right, is I'm going to manipulate this shape until it fits the shape of that piece of ice cream on the top. Now remember, same thing, is you got to think about this as a separate piece. I'm going to grab the scissors, and I'm going to snip right about here and right about here. And then I'm just going to delete off that bottom piece. That gives me the top half of the ice cream. All right, it's going to be separate because I have these lines coming in here. I want this to be drawn a little differently. I'm going to go with my stroke being black, and I'm going to do my fill with that pink. Pink, there we go. All right, and I'm going to put this, obviously, underneath. So I'm going to send it to back, okay? And I'm going to tuck this under. It kind of looks like a sunburned guy with a hat on. All right, I'm going to start that. Now, this piece gets where it gets a little trickier, all right, is I'm going to go from here around, all right? And then I'll show you kind of how you can change your profile of your pencil. I'm going to take the pencil, and I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do the best I can, again, to go through and trace, all right? Take your time. The better you do it to start, the better off you are. If you feel like you're getting tired, remember, you can stop for a second, and you can start right back up again. All right, and just make sure you connect your points, that's all. I'm going through here. You know I'm gonna have to fix that, because I know it's gonna smooth it out a little bit more than I want it to. And I'm going around. You guys can kind of get the picture here. All right, I'm coming up. Ooh, that's gonna get messy. And I'm gonna go through here, okay? And you can see how this line got really messed up. So I'm gonna go through and same deal, I'm just gonna make it red so I can see it. And you can see kind of where it worked and where it didn't. So I'm gonna grab that direct selection tool again, and I'm gonna pull up some of these points. It's really not that bad, actually. I'm gonna pull this over a little bit, and then this one over a little bit. And same thing, this one over a little bit, all right? And this is gonna come in. This isn't terrible. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit, as I'm gonna bring this one down a little bit too, okay? This one kind of got all wonky. So same thing, I got lots of points to bend on here. And I think I said I want to make sure we keep this at 8 point. And really, honestly, not that bad. Pull it in here. Okay, now you'll notice with this one, it gets thinner at the ends, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my width tool to kind of fix that. And you'll notice if I pull my stroke panel up here, okay, if you don't have this little stroke panel, which is this guy right here, okay, you can go to window and you can go to stroke and it'll pop it right up. This gives you all your settings in your stroke setup, all right, every little thing that you want to do here. The width tool is this guy right here, all right, and I'm going to click on that and watch what happens. I can thin out the end of this. Now the whole line is going to thin out. I'm going to thin out the end of this as well, okay, but you'll notice that the profile is going through here, changes, all right, so that profile changes. And you can see how it's going like thick to thin. You can see how the whole line kind of went really thin. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to boost this out. And you can see where now it starts to change again, okay? It's kind of cool. I find this to be a really fun tool because you can create some really interesting stuff. And you can kind of bend back and then you can see where it starts to get thick and thin here, okay? Again, I'm going to grab my direct selection tool and you can see where I can change and manipulate, and anything can be adjusted. That's the great part about this, all right? Now, I will tell you that you'll notice I changed this profile with the stroke. So if I grab my pencil and I start to draw again, it's gonna have that same profile, which I may not want it to. For this particular instance to start, I will. But to change that back, you wanna make sure that your profile goes back to uniform, okay? And that will change it back. But until I do that, I'm going to be drawing in that particular way, which I think for this instance is fine, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to go like this, okay? And that's gonna leave me that. Now, what's cool is that we want this to look a little organic because it's not, it's ice cream. I'm gonna click on that red, on this whole outer line. I'm gonna hold the shift key and click on these so that I have them all. And I'm gonna bring them over here, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is with this line, we're gonna go ahead and adjust all of our colors. Same deal, black stroke and pink fill, okay? These guys will have just the black stroke, all right? And then I'm gonna take this, all right, and I'm gonna move it up into my ice cream. So you can see how we're starting to go through this. Now, because I sort of manipulated this line, these look really thick. I'm gonna go ahead and take these, and if yours end up looking thick, you can drop this down a little bit. You'll notice that a smaller stroke on that, for some reason, works a little bit better. I might go one tab bigger, okay? So you can see where I'm starting to create this piece. And I also do need to move these guys over a little bit and kind of tuck them over, okay? And you can play with this, the setup, but so you see where I can get that effect, okay? And in terms of when you're dealing with like the cherry you could start with an ellipse if you wanted to, okay? And you can move the ellipse at the top, similar to we did the cherries before. Same thing here, if I wanted to do this little piece here, and notice that my pen tool is still on that same profile. So if I want to keep it there, I can. But I could use the pen tool to sort of create a multiple sort of piece here and go around and stuff like that. Or again, if you want, you just take the pencil, we draw it. That gives us the top of the cherry, where the cherry's sitting in the ice cream, okay? And again, because I'm using that profile, everything's gonna show up like that. You can, all right, take this and you can click on this profile piece, and you'll notice that you can add to profiles, okay? So I can click on this and I could just say ice cream, right? And now that profile is saved as ice cream. So if I go back here, you'll see uniform, right? Now everything's uniform. Now when I do that with my pencil, everything goes back to that normal shape. So if you find that it keeps going weird and it keeps being funny, that's your profile situation, okay? So again, I can take this profile now that I saved ice cream, and I can click on it, and there's my sort of organic looking piece here that I can put just like that, okay? When it comes to the highlights and these little pieces here, you're dealing with ellipses, right? And you can do them with, again, the pencil tool if you want. This time I'm gonna go back to just the uniform pencil, and I can draw that shape. Okay, and if it smooths it out for me, it's fine. Boing, I fill it, okay? There's my shape. And again, now I've noticed I got a little spiky in there. We're gonna make all of these just white, and whoops, not the stroke. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and I think like 40% will be fine, okay? And I know it's not the same color, and that's okay. I'm not worried about giving it a color. I'd rather just have the highlight, okay? If you really feel like it, you can take this, and if you make it brown, you can actually go ahead and just make a different brown color. So I could duplicate this if I wanted to. And just go in, and I could actually just make it a lighter color. And I'll get that sort of effect. But white is fine by me. I'm okay with white as well, all right? And you can do that all kind of throughout these there's little bean shapes and stuff like that. Like again, quick pencil. Again, you just move this, you go in, kind of just right around. All right, connect those lines. If you see something funky, you can fix it. All right, again, there's my white fill. Okay, kind of create those. You can also mess around with shapes if you wanted to, but I feel like the pencil tool is probably the easiest way to do that. All right. When it comes down here, it's the same thing. So you're going to do the top of the ice cream cone, right? This shape here is one shape to here, okay? Then this shape is another shape, and then these lines are in between. And with all these lines, you can do the pen tool if you want. So you can click here to here and kind of just pull and drag a little bit. And then I'm going to fill it. Excuse me. I'm going to turn the stroke to black. My opacity is still set up at 40%, so I'm going to put that at 100%. I'm going to give myself a heavy line there. And again, in my stroke properties, I'll go ahead and just pick my little ice cream brush, all right, and the swatch will be black. Sorry, not that one, okay? And you can keep drawing those lines. So you could use the pen tool to create that line, or you could use the pencil tool to create that line. I'm fine with either one. the less smooth you make it, the more you'll get like a little bit of wobble, a little bit of organicness to it. Either one, they look almost exactly the same. It's just a lot of lines, doom, 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 okay? Keep in mind that, you know, even though this is tucked under here, you're gonna draw like a line that goes further so that you can put this on top, okay? And again, as I'm making that ice cream cone, same deal. I take my pencil, I go in here, and I'm just gonna draw right down. I'll probably do it from, we can start anywhere here and we can draw through. I'm gonna use the pencil this way if I wanted to, okay? And again, hit escape, grab the top end of this, it come around, doesn't matter, it's going to be underneath the ice cream, and come down to here, okay? And then this shape becomes the top part of the cone. So the stroke is black, whereas the fill is this yellowish color, all right? And then I can take this, and I'm gonna make the stroke a little thicker on this whole thing, all right? This would go arrange, send it back. Okay, now see how that makes sense now? Okay, whereas before you're like, it's kind of like, well, how's that gonna work? It's not, you're not gonna see it, all right? And if you wanted to as well, if you feel like it, I tend to try to use the pen tool whenever I can. You can click here, and then you can click here, and sort of finish it with the pen tool, okay? And then same deal, I go from here to kind of here, to here, and then I'm kind of just rounding there. And again, I'm gonna click to start my pen and just kind of drop it there, all right? Escape, hit the escape key, you'll release the pen like that. And again, it doesn't make sense because it looks like a really weird shape until you fix that, put it behind the ice cream. And again, you'll see like this end is thicker, so I'll go ahead and just grab my width tool and I'll make this end a little thicker and this end a little thicker to this line, okay? Probably a little too thick. And the end of my lines on this would be rounded. I can hit that round cap. So anytime you see a rounded end, you can hit that round cap to it, okay? It'll give it a nice rounded edge, okay? That's just kind of the best way to go about it. That way you don't end up with a box. Again, your caps are here. You have to have your line selected where you can round your cap, okay? But the idea is to kind of go through and sort of create, finish up and sort of create this ice cream cone. That way you're starting to use your pencil a little bit. The shapes we were doing before were really very static. This has some more movement to it, a little bit more, flow to it that makes it feel a little bit more illustrated. And again, we're gonna deal mostly with the pencil tool in this particular instance. So again, the pencil tool, all right, your properties, all right, in the stroke settings here or in the stroke setting here, whichever you prefer, you have a profile. Once you use the width tool, it changes the profile, okay? And if I start drawing with this pencil and I'm like, oh man, it's doing that thing again, you wanna make sure that it's under your profile and you can put it back to uniform, okay? If you save that profile once you do it, like I said, and name it ice cream, it works out great. And again, to do that, okay, you would draw a line, you take your width tool, you start something here, maybe I go something here. I take this, it creates a width profile. I click on this and I say add width profile and I just say worm, okay? And then my width profile is under here is worm, and there's ice cream, there's arrow, there's crazy. These are all added, they're all defaults. Okay, and then anytime I draw with the pencil or the pen tool, okay, that width profile is applied until I change it back, okay? That's kind of the best way to do that, all right? So I want you to see if you can recreate this ice cream cone. This is if you're done with all the 4 icons and the TV illustration. You can work on this illustration to kind of get a feel for how this functions, okay? And try to get all the highlights, try to get all the lines, really start to go through, all right? Good luck.